Okay, so tonight on Garage Time, we are back to working on the Subi swap. So we have finally got the roof to a point. I'm still doing a little bit of touch-up final bodywork. We're gonna prime it all, but we wanted to take a break from that. We wanted to move on to some new and exciting things. So we're back in the garage tonight. We are going to start working on the dash. Now, the dash is something I've been thinking about for like a year. I've had my typical anxiety, sleepless nights. I've been thinking about it, and I have a bit of, I'll say, OCD. So doing the Subi swap, obviously you need to add water temp, and you're gonna add oil pressure. Now, I already did have oil pressure, but with the kit we bought, it came with some gauges, and these two bad boys showed up. So as you can see, these look nothing like what Volkswagen would have originally had. So what my cluster was starting to look like is I had an original Speedo. Then I had a Smith's aftermarket fuel gauge that was supposed to look like an original gauge. If I'm adding these two gauges, this was just a temporary setup I had down here, the MP style. I don't like that at all. It was just temporary with the old engine, the 914 engine I had in here. So I had actually bought from Shorty's Customs. He sells some pretty nice little metal brackets that fold, touch nicely right here against your gauge pod. You can have one or two. If you're interested, I have some for sale on the Zamba. Never ended up using them. So long and short, I'm sure the panning of the camera, you've seen this here. So I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go to Speedhut. I'm gonna buy all new gauges, and the color scheme of the bus is gonna be red and white. We've already got some seat covers, and we went with a white seat cover with red stitching. Looks pretty sharp. So we're gonna continue that theme throughout. So since the dash is gonna be white, we decided to go for red gauges with white writing. Now, what this solved for me, it fixed a lot of my problems. The main cluster, we didn't go with their typical. They make one for buses, but we went for this style. So 4 gauges in one, and we're gonna put it in our main pod. And that covers our oil pressure and our water temp. So one of the main things we need, obviously, with the Subi swap is water temp. So this is a gauge we designed ourselves on Speedhut's website. And we're gonna go for a smaller Speedo. And another feature that I liked about these guys is it's a GPS. It even says right there, GPS Speedo. So, you know, we've changed the rims, we've changed the tires, we have interest in trying new and more rims. I kind of have an issue with what wheel we're gonna end up with on this thing. I'd like to try some different styles, pick the one I like, but my Speedo's never been accurate. So I've had the phone, you know, you're driving, you clock it and you check, okay, whatever. On the highway, my Speedo says I'm going 120, but really I'm going 110, and you gauge it by that. So this should be accurate, and you know, we'll do some tests of that once we do get it installed. The only downfall to that, and I don't know if you can see it here, it's probably in the box, but it comes with a little pod, and they did mention that you should mount that. They're hoping on the exterior of the vehicle. I can tell you right now, that's not gonna happen. I'm not mounting a little black disc on my roof. But what I've been thinking is I'm gonna poke it into the headlight assembly or into my turn signal and hopefully get a good enough signal from there. So the other, so we got the Speedo, we added a tack. Now this was great, and this was in my cart at Speedhut, but I still had an issue. My OCD was kicking in because I had, on the other side of the dash, I had a clock. Now, it's a deluxe bus. It should have a clock, and I had an issue with just blanking that off and not having a clock. Obviously, they don't sell a square clock like Volkswagen did, so I ended up buying a round clock. So it's kind of nuts, but I'm gonna close in that hole and close in my square hole and drill out a round hole. So all in all, this is what I've schemed up in my head for the dash. We're gonna get rid of our indicator. This old gas gauge hole, I'm gonna close. Okay, so I want symmetry. So now that I'm gonna have 2 extra gauges here, I'm gonna move speedo here, and I'm gonna move tack here. So I'm gonna have small gauge, large, small. Radio, I really struggled, and I'll get to that in 1 sec. So small gauge, and then coming over here, closing in the deluxe clock hole, which even hearing myself say that sounds crazy. But as I've mentioned many times, this bus is, the bottom 12 inches is basically new metal. It was a chicken coop. We've welded it all up. Bottom 12 inches is new. We put in Grumpy Metal's roof kit. The top is new. So basically we're at the middle section is stock. I've kind of lost any bit of claim to this being a stock bus. So now I'm doing what I want to do, what suits me, and what I think will still look really good in the end. So one thing I love about buses is the metal dash and the cleanliness of them. So I think by cleaning this up a bit, having all the gauges match, and by making 4 gauges out of the main speedo, like it used to just pretty much be your speedo, your indicator, your high beam. Now it's taking care of 4 of my needs. Adding 1 more hole, it's gonna look good. I think the end result will be very nice, but with the radio. So I struggled with the radio. Now this had been previously enlarged a bit by the previous owner or some owner. I was considering going to a single DIN and adding like an aftermarket display, like an Android display that I could, end up doing CarPlay, Apple Play off of, and, modernizing the feel a bit. But I don't want to wreck that classic feel of the dash. I've done a few retro sound radios, so we definitely considered that. But now with these cool looking gauges and what I've done, I feel like that's actually it's not the look and feel we're going for. So what I think the final product will be, and things always change, but what the plan is at this time is I always have the quad lock cases on. So I'm gonna buy a Bluetooth amp. We're gonna put some speakers in, run them off the Bluetooth amp, and we're gonna use our phone as our head unit. And I think the ashtray, I'm not a smoker, the ashtray means nothing to me. I think somehow I'm going to, cut out the bottom part, modify it, somehow get the quad lock system secured into it, maybe throw in a couple of USB charging ports in there. And when I come in, you lock in your phone and you got control, you got music, you got all that. You get out, you take your phone, right? That's where we stand right now. So I've talked a whole lot, but we're gonna go ahead, make a small piece of metal, remove this light and mark it up and start making some new holes for our gauges and running wires. So I know I didn't touch on it. I'm gonna touch on it for a sec. Another thing I really liked about these guys, like most people, you buy a tack, you mount it here and your engine's right there. Well, it's a Volkswagen bus. It's all the way at the back. So you can custom order cables from them. And with my order, increasing the length of these 3 cables, it was an extra $30-some or something. Like it was reasonable, right? So they didn't gouge you on that. So far I've been happy. I think the gauges look pretty good. And we're gonna go ahead and get all the wiring installed and ran back to the engine, and then we can continue on. All right, so I know I just talked a whole lot, but that's about 1.5 years of what's been going on up here. So thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening to all I've got to say. That's our plan. We're gonna start doing it now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you out there.